is this stand-up. Well, it's more like pace around and make some observations. You know, it's kind of interesting thing. This is the west side. I've just been to a bunch of gallery openings over on the east side of the river. And you know, there's a difference between the two parts of Cedar Rapids, and it's best illustrated by a story about a charrette. Now, maybe you know what a charrette is. It's one of those brainstorming sessions where you decide what the community needs and how you're going to get it, and so forth and so on. And usually architects organize them. They do this thing, and they put it together, and they ask for citizen inputs, and then after that they do exactly what they intended to do in the first place. But it always helps to get buy-in. That's what the city likes. The city likes buy-in for a charrette. So they look for input. They put up pieces of paper around the wall of a place, and they say, what do you like, A, B, or C? Now, they've already chosen A, B, or C as if those are the only alternatives you have, so you get to put a Post-it note on one of those three already predetermined outcomes. And they're not usually very different from each other, but they have this and they have that. And what I've noticed at these charrettes is that the people on the west side have a slightly different attitude toward the charrette than the people on the east side of the river. People on the east side of the river, they talk rather academically or fuzzy, or they talk rather holistically. They talk rather grand in grand ways about planning the city and the future of that shining city on the Cedar. And then on the west side, they're much more practical, blunt. They don't use those catchphrases and things that make things happen. So the best example of this was, I was at a charrette, and this guy from the west side was saying, he was kind of critical of like what he called, with a slight little snarl in his voice, streetscaping. Streetscaping? What do you want streetscaping for? And someone on the east side, or a representative of the city, said, well, you know, it has a lot to do with quality of life issues. The guy from the west side said, quality of life? If you want quality of life, move to Chicago. So that kind of distinguishes the two things. And you know, this event this evening here at Groundswell, Zini called it Ground Dwell. I'm calling it Groundswell or Swell Ground or whatever it is. This place is. This event kind of typifies some of those, you know, those differences, just to an interesting kind of difference. And so I'm just, you know, when I was, let's see, I think around 1975, I used to do a kind of thing that I called performed criticism. Performed criticism, I would go to like a theater festival, and then I'd interrupt it at some point, and I'd get up and make I'd criticize all the theater there at the show. I just kind of, you know, take it on myself to be, you know, an uninvited critic. So I haven't done anything like that for 30 years, and the reason for that is I was involved with a venue here in Cedar Rapids, and you know, if I would if I would say somebody to somebody that they did a really good job, they would ask me how to get a show at CSPS, right? Oh, can I have a show? You know, I should be on stage there because you like me. Well, I didn't do that. I wasn't the curator of events there. I was just more maybe the facilitator of events. So there was always this problem that people, when I gave my criticism, it was like making myself vulnerable to being used as as a gatekeeper. That's probably one of those east side of the river terms. You know, a gatekeeper who gives you access to a venue or something like that. Anyway, I said when I stopped, I'm retiring this month, so I'm as good as retired right now, and I don't feel like if I make a little criticism to praise or the other side of the thing is, of course, if I said something needed work or something like that, then suddenly I was part of the cultural elite that was looking down on the little guy and making so I couldn't say anything about other people's work. Now I feel kind of suddenly freed, liberated from that social obligation to protect the institution that I represented. So I'm just going to say whatever I feel to say about the reform criticism on the program. And I came in a little late. I don't know, maybe some things happened in that first half hour, the 35 minutes that I missed, but I'll tell you what I saw. First, that guy in the prison stripes that played the piano over there and sang. He sang songs. It was good. It was good. I liked it. I'm not criticizing at all. Saying it was bad. It was a certain kind of singing that was like a young singer sings like, where you kind of sing at the limits of your vocal range, so that at the bottom you're kind of gravelly a little. You can almost like it's almost like in the back of the thing, and then at the top it's kind of you're straining just a little bit to hit that to hit that note, and you put those two things together, and it creates a kind of authenticity. It's like at CSPS we always have these photographers bring high school students over to get their picture taken against an old broken down wall, because it gave them a sense of experience, and stretching to the limits of your things, giving you an idea that you're slightly, you're out there, you're on the edge. That's what I liked about that performance. I thought it was good. I book him at CSPS and I don't do the booking. Yeah, but he could do an opener set certainly. What else did we see? Right after that, what was that? I wrote this on the back of a check. It's void, so I don't worry about it. There was a, Luke. Is that Luke? The hip hop guy. I thought that was interesting. All those little gadgets that that played little bits of music. It was like scratching records without scratching records, and layering and collaging and things. I like that. I like it a lot. And not only that, it was short. I like that even better, because that way you don't get swamped in it, and then he talked about the sources and hip hop music. And of course, he looked about his hip hop as a store clerk at Michael's, but he needs costumes. He needs costumes in order, if he's going to do those do these references to hip hop and really be the culture. But I liked it. I had no problem with it. who else was there? Let's see. Well, you know, they kept adding things. People walked in off the street, and they put them in. I kept kind of pushing mine to the back because I wanted to get my criticism to kind of cover everybody. So then there was a, oh, you know what I thought? Look, that was a little like, you ever heard that song, that term, he's a legend in his own mind? He's a John Legend in his own mind, you know. There's a certain pop quality to things there, and it mixes all those things. From my geezer eyes, it's like you know, that's what music is like at a certain, you know, at a certain distance from me, and I appreciate telling us how you know, where this music comes from and where you know, the roots of it, and I appreciate the brevity. I do really a lot. And then we had, let's see. Oh, no, I forgot. There was that guy that did that This American Life little program there about cooking, and his, you know, and his mom, and that sort of thing. I really liked that. I really liked that. It's a kind of dialogue that Ira Glass would really like, you know, and a well-structured story that you know has you both laughing, a little chuckling, and then you know, puts a little tear in your eye, and it has a great deal of vulnerability to it, and it's especially in this atmosphere where it's basically bro culture, you know, where you're broke culture, where everybody's, this is a really guy event, you know what I mean? That's the crew here, and I don't know what it is about these kind of activities like stand up or open mics, things like that. But there's a great deal of kind of, you know, trying to being vulnerable in front of other guys, you know, and I like that. I like how it works, but it also is kind of, you know, it's a little homogenized. Well, the age thing is what was interesting to me. You had three of us old geezers, and three of the younger, you know, of the bro culture, and not much in between, and you know, and the twinks left before the show was over. You know, it's interesting. That was, you know, and these kind of things are like that. People do these open mics. They're not really performing for each other. They're performing for an audience. There's no audience here. That's the problem. That's the problem. So they're performing for each other, but they're also competitors for each other. So it doesn't really work particularly well. You know, this is ground swell is like a ground tumescence. You know, it's like there's a shrinking of the ground. So you don't have a feeling that you're really getting to the hoi polloi, the people, the general public. So. Then who do we have? Oh, let's see. We had that guy who came in with his guitar case and sang the blues, and the best part about that was that old school tuning, because everybody has, oh, thanks for the haze. That is great. It's not only I can see it kind of drifting out of the, and it worked particularly well in that story about the cooker too, because it's like his kitchen was really on fire. You know, that worked well, and it added a little atmosphere to everybody else's as well. Then we had, we had the art history professor. Professor Dave, he and Mayor Pete are doing a little thing back there where they're teaching people how to do art things, and so this is the problem. There wasn't enough heckling in this audience. There was not enough people trying to enter into that conversation with the performer. It lets them hanging out there a little bit, putting that haze into the air, but not really getting anything from it, except, you know, I want some feedback. So I've worked it out like this. At the end of my little set here, when I say quality of life, if you want quality of life, then I want the crowd to shout, "Move to Chicago!" Yeah, okay. That's what we're going to get up to there in a minute. I'm just kind of at the end of here. So the professor, by the way, David, I have a little piece of it satirical suggestion, and that is get some longer socks. Get socks that go up to almost to your knees, so that when you sit there, you're not showing ankle. It's really disconcerting. The whole professorial thing kind of disappears. Okay, if he's not here, just make sure he gets that note. Yeah, these are critical notes, especially if you're sitting on a stage. You see, then everybody can see your ankles. It's not a good idea. Not a good. And then the rest of it, yeah, he had the best costume of the whole crowd. You know, he didn't have the beard, but he had the kind of horn-rimmed glasses and the tie and the tweed jacket, which unfortunately I have as well. I was going to ask him if I could borrow that tie because I thought it would be a good little thing for my service. But I have to say this. Not enough heckling. Well, I guess I said just about everything I need to say. I kind of gave a rundown of gave it around the thing, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come here to Groundswell, because there's something that is adding to the whole. Yeah, what do you call it? Someone said, "Oh, what are you going to do when you retire?" And I said, you know, I'm kind of the aesthetic permafrost of Cedar Rapids. I've had this, I've been underneath the radar for 30 years, making these little comments to my friends and the things. But now with climate change and all that sort of thing, that permafrost is kind of breaking up, and those botulisms and things are coming back to up to the surface and causing our whole thing, and it's creating a kind of a sense of emergency, and then there's a sense of emergence from here as well. As well, the ground is swelling. The ground is getting the ground is loosening up its things. And it's not producing quality of life. No, if you want quality of life, move to Chicago. Thank you.
Well, thank you for everyone for coming tonight. That wraps it up. Thank you. Bravo.
Okay, thanks for doing it.